This is something that he and I used to argue about a lot. You know, whether a game ought to actually be playable, whether it means anything if no one can get through it. And I would always defend that, you know, all this work goes into the game, why not make it playable and accessible? And so we just got into heated arguments over it, and there was one time that after one of these conversations, he went home, and a day or two later, he sent me a zip file entitled Playable Games. That was full of hundreds of individual games, each of which was just an empty box that you walked around in and nothing else. Believe me, I played every single one of those just to find out if there was like a gag hidden somewhere. There wasn't. It's the puzzle again, with the exact same solution as the last time. There's still no clear indication of what makes this puzzle so special that Coda is going to return to it over and over. But I promise I'll share with you my interpretation very shortly.
Предположениями, то есть точного ответа у него нету.
Here, Coda begins using a kind of dialogue system that he fashioned out of the engine's chat capabilities. Use the 1, 2, 3 buttons on your keyboard to respond.
Почему ты решила? Почему к нам обращается как к женскому персонажу? Мне очень по душе вариант 3. Пространство, оно. А тут говорят, скоро ты ее снова увидишь. Что у вас с печечкой? Печечка не открывается. Проход слишком узкий. Сразу даже не протиснешься.
And so we make one last descent down to the final floor of the level.
Да, тут все-таки есть конец, мы до него добрались. Что-то мне даже мысль не посещала, когда эта игрушка кончится. Ну, именно вот этот вот фрагмент игры, а не весь Beginner's Guide. И вот они говорили про темное пространство, я специально тут остановился. Да, действительно, мы снова его увидели.
It's a lamppost. Okay, I can't tell you quite why, but for some reason Coda fixates on this lamppost. It's going to appear at the end of every single one of his games from here on out. I'll tell you what I think. I think that up to this point, you know, he's been making really strange and abstract games with no clear purpose, And maybe you can only float around in that headspace for so long. Because now he wants something to hold on to. He wants a reference point. He wants the work to be leading to something. He wants a destination, which is what this lamppost is. It's a destination. We're going to see it in the work as well. His games are just going to become a lot more cohesive, a lot more fully developed, with more of a clear idea behind them. And as we go, that idea will get clearer and clearer and clearer.
Ну, пора телепортироваться. Да, как раз экран начал гаснуть, когда я это стал говорить. Ну-ка, заметки. Какая милая комната, хотя нет. Забавненько.
So first off, I'm sure you can deduce this, but this game is not connected to the internet. All of the notes that you're going to see have been written by Coda. This was actually the first game of his that I ever played. This was shortly after I met him at a weekend game jam in Sacramento, where I grew up. I saw him working on this very level, and it was just so different from anything that anyone else was doing. So right away I was like, I have to be friends with this person. In retrospect, I think I was probably a bit too pushy trying to get his attention. I was over-enthusiastic. But he was very gracious about it and very patient with me. And I cooled off eventually.
Я не знаю, нам сколько из них бегать,
Feel free to skip
читать.
over any of these notes if they're not doing anything for you. Nothing extra is going to happen if you read all of them. Either way, to me they convey a sense of loneliness. I see this person who's filled with thoughts and feelings and beliefs and has no way to express them except as scattered game that wasn't meant to be played.
Ну, по-моему, ходить тут достаточно бессмысленно, с первого еще
But
как-то.
it's ironic, isn't it? That in playing this game and seeing how alone Coda often felt, that we get to know him better and actually kind of connect with him. And I have to be honest with you, this idea is really seductive to me. That I could just play someone's game and see the voices in their head and get to know them better and have to do less of the messy in-person socializing. I could just get to know you through your work. I think this is why I always liked Coda's games so much, is because it felt like they let me have that connection. I felt as though he was inviting me personally into his world. And then I feel less lonely too.
Что-то мне не очень хочется вот оббегать большинство этих сообщений, потому что, ну, очень они пустые. Зачастую. Блин, это даже текст весь не влазит. Господи, какой кошмар. Вырвать все глаза. Конечно. Я уже столько этих обошел. Конечно, не чувствую себя героем. Этим летом уже прошло, а следующее будет не скоро. Клевая пещера. Да нет, пространства тут целая куча. Это точно, здесь слишком много сообщений, да? Спрыгнуть нам не дадут. То есть вот эта штукенция висит. А мы дальше-то можем пройти или не можем? Так, вот тут спуск есть. Надо бы сразу сюда двинуть, и нечего время терять. Это точно. Я так хотел, чтобы меня хотели. Здесь немноголюдно, здесь вообще безлюдно. С одной стороны, интересно почитать, с другой стороны, ну слишком уж это все затягивается. Пробегу-ка я дальше. Хорошо, не буду. Я уже не читаю. Кто бы это ни придумал, у него явные проблемы там было написано. О чем он, о картине или об игре.
At the end of this level, we're going to see the puzzle again. And here, I'll tell you what I think the puzzle means.
У
Each of
кого-то
these games
дефицит идей.
represents an idea that was on Coda's mind at the time that he was making it. And the puzzle is a way of closing the door on a previous chapter of his life before moving on to the next one.
Так хочется сократить,
In
но
each of
нет,
his
тут
games,
невидимая стена.
after exploring a theme that, he might find difficult, Coda can then place this puzzle that he knows has a reliable solution, he understands exactly how it works, and so it gives him a simple mechanism for moving on. And because there's this dark area between the doors, a space between spaces, before you move on, you get to pause. Just for a moment, a few seconds to reflect on and let go of the events that led you here. To step back and connect the pieces together. To grasp at that elusive bigger picture.
Там было столько этих сообщений, а тут всего одно. Типа тот единственный, который игру прошел. Страшный звук. А, это типа печатающие машинки. И да, фонарик.
Okay, this one is tough. It's gonna kinda just spin its own wheels for a few minutes. Hang with it. See, like, this is it, the whole game. And there's nothing that's particularly interesting about it. You just walk to the end of a hallway. Except, for some reason, Coda gets really fixated on this prison that has all of this modern furniture. And I don't know why, but he decides he needs to revisit this prison. He's gonna start over, use the same assets, turn it into something else. Okay, cool. Here's version 2.
Прекрасный выбор, давайте. Обойдешься. Вот тебе стол, никаких тебе. Давай стиралку. Чем абстрактнее, тем лучше. Обойдешься. Все равно он будет ставить все на свое усмотрение. Есть уже один стол, куда еще-то? Мне очень нравится вариант третий. Блеснуть умом. Не знаешь, правда там или нет.
There's a bit more to this one, but still it's not really communicating anything. It's kind of just weird for weirdness' sake. So okay, he throws it out and starts over. This time he comes at the prison idea from a different direction.
Какому именно дивану? Полок.
And of course, now the table is gone and you can't begin the chain of events to escape. Here's a version where there are no bars, but you can't actually get to the well. And then a version where the inside of the prison is the outside and the outside is the inside. Let me just blink you real quick through a few more of these. I mean, he really unloaded on this prison idea. There's nearly a dozen of them. Personally, I think it's awful to watch this, to see a person basically unraveling through their work. And for what? Like, at what point do you just go, maybe there are game ideas other than this prison that I could be working on? But Coda doesn't have that voice telling you to stop, that particular mechanism of defense against yourself. Without it, you just spiral. And so he keeps going and going and going and going and going, and then he hits on something. And he likes it. And that's it. He's done. He stops making prisons. This is the very last version of the prison game that he created, and the reason I think it works is that the prison is not actually in it.
И опять, почему ты тоже была?
And so this is what Coda wants, is to be able to talk to someone, to share what's on his mind, and to get some good advice from someone who knows. But the irony is that even in this scenario, you're still talking to yourself. You know, all of these games so far are Coda talking to himself.
И опять же, я прошла обучение по бегу. Почему у нас персонаж как будто бы женским оказывается, хотя там не намека на то, какого он пола. Может, он вообще что-то среднего рода.
I can see why he considers this a fitting conclusion to the prison games. After all of the obsession and frustration, just to be told by someone you can trust that things are going to be okay. Wouldn't that be nice? So what would it look like if Coda wanted to make a game about talking to someone other than himself?
Боже мой, неужели мы тут увидим другого персонажа
To me,
какого-то?
this environment is meant to represent Coda's puzzle, with the two doors on either side and a dark transitional space between. You'll notice that the quality of
милом
the art
месте.
is a step up from previous games, including this new and improved chat system, which he started using from this.
Отличный ответ, только пообещай, что она глупая.
The intense set of prison games, his house cleaning level almost feels like cleansing. It's the moment after a particularly difficult or traumatic experience where you just need to let it sit and digest inside of you, and eventually cohere into something meaningful.
Мы же уже убирали со стола. Все по новой? Иначе это тебе доконать, что это.
I know that Coda really liked this game. Of all of his work, actually, this was the only one that he called me up to ask me to come over and look at it. This was during a period of a few months where he was like grossly happy all the time, just walked around with a constant smile on his face. I'm glad he made this. I'm glad he found some peace. But, of course, it can't last. The music stops, your companion is gone, it's time to leave. The door at the top of the hill is now open as well. Again, you can't stay in the dark space for too long. You just can't. You have to keep moving. It's how you stay alive. Which is the whole point of the puzzle doors, right? That sooner or later you have to pick up and move. I really thought that was the point of it.